Hospital Port's Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanmo TV. I'm in Woolwich, East London, and I'm going to investigate something called the Woolwich Portal, or the Woolwich Time Anomaly. Yes, let me just explain what it is. So where am I going? Well, I'm actually going to the Woolwich Foot Tunnel. Now this is the best place to go to find information when you want to look about this, is go, of course, to Wikipedia. What does Wikipedia have to say about it? Well, this is the the Woolwich Foot Tunnel. I almost said Greenwich because there is another foot tunnel at Greenwich which I've already been into, and this is another foot tunnel, and this is actually an older one than Greenwich, I believe. I think it's the oldest. There we go. Yeah. There's actually a ferry as well, which you can use to cross the river at Woolwich, and it goes between Woolwich and North Woolwich and Newham, which is on the north side of the River Thames. And the tunnel was designed and it was opened first on 26th of October 1912, so it's really old. It's been around for over 100 years, and it was designed by Sir Maurice Fitzmaurice. I don't know why they called him Morris when his surname was Fitzmaurice. But anyway, now this is the important bit. There was a major refurbishment at the Greenwich Foot Tunnel between on the Greenwich Foot Tunnel in 2010, but the Woolwich Foot Tunnel also had a refurbishment at the same time, and this was delayed. It was first closed on 24th September 2010, and then the reason was because it needed major repair because there were structural weaknesses to the tunnel, and there was leaking from the river, which of course is pretty dangerous when you're in a tunnel under a river. And it had to be upgraded with other things. They've put in CCTV, of course. You have to have that, don't you? Yeah. And of course, they've got a leaky feeder system to permit the operation of mobile phones. Oh, right. So you see, people can't bear to be off their phone, can they? Not even for the however long it takes you to walk the 1,600-foot long tunnel. Yeah, no, you might start getting mobile phone withdrawal symptoms. You might collapse in the tunnel. I haven't checked my Instagram feed. Oh, help me. They've also improved mobility. They've got a new lift to help disabled people use the tunnel more. They put up signs saying "Do not cycle" and things like that. So you can take your bike through the tunnel, but you can't ride it. It's interesting. The tunnel is it's a pedestrian tunnel. It's only big enough for people walking or people with bikes, but you do have to push your bike. You're not allowed to ride it, and that's very interesting, of course, in itself. But that's your introduction to the Woolwich Foot Tunnel, where I'm going to go to. There's these two entrances, the north entrance and the south entrance. These like rotunda type buildings, which I'll be showing you, and they are listed buildings. They're Grade 2 listed buildings. The south entrance is somewhat hidden behind the Waterfront Leisure Centre, and it's the oldest remaining building in the riverside area of Old Woolwich. That's interesting indeed. So I'm very much looking forward to this. But anyway, the question is, why am I going all the way from Oxford to London? Because just to go through a little foot tunnel. Well, I'm not just going through it. I'm going there to investigate. I'll tell you all about it. So, why am I going to the Woolwich Foot Tunnel? Well, I'll explain. I came across this website, portalsoflondon.com, and it says here it's called Towards a Catalogue of London's Interdimensional Gateways. Well, that's like a pot of honey to a bee for me, isn't it? Remember I went to Brighton and did a film about it there. I must remember to put that as a link in the description box. I mean, there's loads of really interesting articles on this website, and I'm thinking of probably going to do a couple more trips to see if I can find them. But it says here, Under River Outside Time, the Woolwich Foot Tunnel Anomaly. This was published in July last year. And it talks about what I've just been talking about on the Wikipedia page. When the Woolwich Foot Tunnel was closed for repairs in 2011, that was when, it was originally closed 2010, but the work was continued. The work was extended longer than it should have been, and this was, well, of course that does happen in the building trade sometimes, but maybe there's another reason why it was extended for so long. But it says here, It should have been a routine job. Pathway had been providing pedestrians a quick route beneath the Thames since 1912. Century on, minor improvements necessary, etc. And they brought in these contractors to basically plug leaks and bring in communications capabilities on security systems, disability access, etc. It just gives a brief overview of what I've just been talking about. But it says here, but Woolwich residents will recall that the refurb of this much-loved and much-used walkway did not go according to plan. When it finally reopened, it was 8 months behind schedule, having been closed for more than a year and a half. What the average Woolwich dweller doesn't know, however, are the unusual circumstances behind this delay. Mention the 18-month time frame to somebody who worked on the Woolwich tunnel job, and you may be met with a mysterious smile. A year and a half may have seemed a long time to those who relied on the tunnel for their daily commute, but for those who were down there beneath the river, that time frame has a different meaning. When one contractor tells me he aged 3 years on the Woolwich job, it is not a metaphor, for deep down beneath the river and clay, hidden from those above ground, something was occurring. That something was a time anomaly. A time anomaly, from the perspective of someone who experiences it, involves a clearly defined part of landscape or architecture in which time stops. Years of study into such phenomena has proved largely fruitless in terms of explanations, and yet even less so when it comes to predicting when and where they might arise. There is some anecdotal evidence that temporary spaces or spaces temporarily under a different use lend themselves to time anomalies, and the Woolwich event would appear to support this. I wonder why that is. I mean, that's interesting. Just a bit of commentary for me here now. Temporary spaces or spaces temporarily under a different use. And it says, and I'll continue with the text now. But they are notoriously hard to define. Not having experienced one, Porters of London isn't about to try. The best thing we can do is listen to those who have experienced them. The following testimonies from one of the contractors on the Woolwich foot tunnel job. He wishes to remain anonymous. Not surprised, quite frankly. His words are presented uninterrupted with as little editing as possible. And this is a quote. It's in quotes now. I was one of the first ones to experience it. We were working from both ends, as it were, and had tents on both sides of the river. It was pretty basic. If you wanted something from the other side, you just had to walk it through the tunnel. Anyway, the foreman's on the other side, and he radios to ask me across. So I walk through the tunnel, the long walk we call it, funnily enough, and it's slightly spooky because no one else is down there. They're all working on the lift shafts, and I get up to the other side, find the foreman, and his eyes nearly pop out of his head. He says he only radioed like a minute ago. How did I get there so quick? He wouldn't take my word for it that I'd walked. He reckoned I had a buggy down there or something. There was some kind of prank. But I stand my ground, and he starts to see that I'm not lying. Anyway, he forgets what he called me there for. He gives me this big red plastic box and tells me to walk back over and hold it up for him. When I get to the other side, so I head back down that lonely walk back, thinking, shouldn't we be getting on with some work? When I get to the top, I wave the red box in the air and radio the foreman. You just left me, he's saying, not more than a minute ago. And that's when I start to feel a bit weird. My initial feelings was I was pretty freaked out by it all, but once everybody else had experienced it, it was amazing how quickly it seemed normal. It became like a joke. It was a laugh, a source of giggles. Someone said we'd invented the teleporter and we were all going to be rich. The foreman stopped trusting watches and phones when we were down there and took to using egg timers. A few of the young agency lads tried to claim extra time on their sheets. My goodness, it's amazing how people adapt, isn't it, to these weird, to high strangeness. Isn't it? They say used egg timers, and they tried to claim extra time on their timesheets. That was the thing, though. Time froze when you were down there. If you were down there for the full working day, fixing the tiling, you'd basically finish work, come back up, and it would still be morning. Which is great at first. I don't live in London, so I did a lot of sightseeing, Cutty Sark, the Royal Palaces, but then we realised how knackered we were. You see, even with weirdness, this is me talking now again, even with weirdness, however weird it is, the practicalities come into it, don't you? You say, well, how are we going to work out payroll when there's a time anomaly? Oh. Anyway, I'll continue with the text. It never really occurred to any of us to tell anyone about it at the time. It was like, who would believe you? You didn't even believe it yourself. Plus, it was such a wheeze. I think there was a feeling that as soon as head office was on it, the whole thing would be over. No more fun. People started experimenting. Some of the guys camped out in there to see how long they could. 3 days and nights it was. And they came back the very same moment they left. That freaked the site manager out, though. He was having a nightmare with the timetables as it was. Biggest problem was making sure that if anyone from head office came down, it wouldn't look like he was sending people home 10 minutes after they logged on. Although that's exactly what he was doing. Anyway, he soon put a stop to all that mucking about. Not before I had my one very strange moment, though. One thing we couldn't get our head round was how the two sort of time places a guy was in seemed to be happening at the same time, as it were. Like I see you emerge across the river in no time at all, but there's also a you who reckons he's spending 4 hours in the tunnel. So Peter, this Bulgarian lad, thought of a little experiment. One morning, before anyone else goes down the tunnel, he ties a long rope around his waist and hands the other end to some of the guys, and he sets off down the tunnel, see? And I'm to follow him down as far as the bottom of the stairs, then stop and watch him walk down the tunnel. Don't put your foot off the stairs, don't step into the tunnel, he told me, and I didn't. So I'm watching him, and he's got something in his pocket, a secret signal for when he's across the river. When he gets to the surface, when the others see he's surfaced, they're supposed to shout down and tell me to pull on the rope. Anyway, I'm kneeling down and craning my head down so I can watch Peter walk around the curve. There's a little note here. The tunnel bends in an inverted bow underground. And Peter laughs and waves at me for a minute. Then he gets bored and keeps walking, and he's just about to round the curve out of sight. It hasn't been long, just a minute or so, around the same time it took us to walk down the steps, and I feel the rope around me tighten. I hear the lads up top, "He's across," waving a red flag. And the thing is, Peter hears it too, and he stops. He turns round, he's looking at me, his hand slowly reaches into his big jacket pocket, and he pulls out the edge of a large red flag. For a moment I grin. I reckon they're all having me on, but it's the look on his face. That's what still haunts me. Nobody's that good an actor. His face, and he's a big man, mind you, fearless. Our Peter was a big character, always at the centre of things, always with a big smile. Never saw him take anything too serious at all, our days till then. But I don't know how to describe it. It was fear, just plain fear on his face, and he's looking right at me, and I know what he's thinking. I know what he's trying to figure out. Do I keep going, or do I come back? He takes one step towards me, then stops, and I don't know how long we looked at each other like that, neither of us talking. Then in the end, he turns around and carries on out of sight. Well, I'm up those stairs like a shot, and when I get to the top, he is across the river, unmistakable even from that distance, red flag in one hand, another guy's arm around his shoulders. Anyway, I didn't like that. It freaked me out, that did. Peter didn't talk about it much. Nobody spoke much about it after that. The jokes kind of came to an end, and we just got on with it, tried to ignore it. And there's a note here. The tunnel was reopened in 2012. No time discrepancies have been reported since that date. Well, I might find one when I go there. But this is interesting because this is like a causal. The last bit, the story about Peter, is essentially a causality paradox, which is one of the problems with time anomalies and time travel, which is what you get. It's like the grandfather paradox. That is a good example of a causality paradox. You know, time travel backwards is supposed to be impossible. Time travel forwards is comparatively easy. You just go very fast. In fact, there's a man called Valery Polyakov who has actually travelled 1/10,000th of a second into the future. He did it by spending 14 months aboard the Mir space station, zipping around the world at 17,000 miles per hour. He actually went slightly into the future, just a short distance, I say 1/10 of a millisecond, but it was timed, it was calculated, and he actually achieved it. All you have to do is go much considerably faster than 17,000 miles an hour, and you go even further into the future. Now, the thing about going back in time is you get into problems such as, like I said, the causality paradoxes. If you go back and kill your grandfather, and then go back into the future, go back to your own time, technically you can't exist, because you've killed the man who sired the man or woman who sired you. In fact, this is part of the plot device for the film Back to the Future by Robert Zemeckis. And we have this one here. Now, Peter, you see, where was Peter? This is thought experiment he came up with, or this actual practical experiment. He gets to the other side, according to the people up on the surface, because they're in a different time to him, and he waves his red flag. But the actual witness can still see him in the tunnel. So what would have happened if he came back? Do you see what I mean? Then would there be two Peters? Because he's got a rope around him, tied to the witness, who was at the bottom of the stairs. That's a good example, isn't it? It makes me a bit nervous. I mean, when I go there, what am I going to find? What's going to happen to me? Well, I think my curiosity is greater than my fear. So there's only one way to find out, isn't there?
Actually, on my way now to my destination of Woolwich. I'm just wondering, I was thinking about something that I said in the previous video to do with robots, because I was talking about automation, about robots taking over things and drones and things like that, and how non-human machines were going to be running everything. And we always think of science fiction, C-3PO and all these other robots, but it's not like that in real life. Robots don't look like that in real life, because, you know, I'm inside a robot now. Look at this. This is the Docklands Light Railway. This train has no driver. It is a robot. I'm inside a robot. I made a film like this a long while ago, and I had to delete it, so this is kind of a replacement. Okay, that's the Woolwich Arsenal Docklands Light Railway Station. Here I am. This is Woolwich, and the Woolwich Station. Now, where I'm going, it's good. I brought my map with me, but they've got maps here. It says I'm there, and I've got to get to the Woolwich Foot Tunnel, so I'm going to go up Power Street. Okay, I know where I'm going now, so I'm just going to head that way. The weather's got a bit chillier and a bit darker. It's not raining though. Just going to head up this street now. You see, I'd rather have done the journey by the riverboat. I mean, I decided to go by the robot that I showed you. So I'm off the robot now, and I'm heading. You know, I've usually when I go to Greenwich Shipyard, I go by the riverboat. Maybe I'll go back by the riverboat, but I'm going to have to get to Greenwich. So I'm mixing my movies up here now. I better explain. I'm shooting two films today in the same place, and I don't know which one I'm going to upload first. So you may know what I'm talking about, maybe you don't. But basically, I was hoping to go by the riverboat, and I can't. There's only two riverboats per day that actually go as far as Woolwich. Most of them terminate at Greenwich, but I'm able to. Basically, I've got to go to Greenwich later and film and do another movie. So I'll hopefully then be able to go back by the riverboat. But anyway, I'm heading along here. Murray's Yard. Where am I? Let's have a look. Oh, where am I? Got my map the wrong way round. That's right, is it? Yeah, here it is. No, it's on the edge of the map, that's right. Okay, well, I'm going the right way. I must say, you may have noticed this too, but I feel a little bit like, how do I put it? A lump of chalk that's just been dropped into a sack of coal, if you know what I mean. But everyone here seems very nice. I don't feel uncomfortable. No one's threatened me. No one's stolen my wallet. So I feel it seems like it's got a nice atmosphere, got a nice energy around here. So I'm going to find my way to the entrance of the foot tunnel, and we'll join you then. I'm at the Waterfront Leisure Centre now, which is where the southern entrance on the right hand bank of the Thames is to be found. It's somewhere behind this big building here, although this building's a lot newer and it's always built around the tunnel entrance. This looks nice. Woolwich First Choice Cafe Restaurant. I might have dinner there later. I must say I've got here ahead of the rush hour, which is good. And even as it is, I didn't get much of a seat on the tube. I did on the DLR, but not on the tube. The tube's always overcrowded now. You're hardly going to get seats on it. But once the rush hour starts, it becomes impossible. It's a horrible place, London, in rush hour. You can see like the architecture changes over the years. I mean, London's like got small little old buildings, and it's surrounded by a lot of new modern buildings, especially here in the East End. Like they're building another one there, you see. And as I said in my previous videos, it's getting more and more like Dubai. So I'm going to find the entrance to the. I'm going to find the entrance to the tunnel. There's an ambulance coming. What's that? Well, here I am at the River Thames, where it gets really wide as it approaches the sea. And as you can see, it's like a pontoon ferry. That's a free ferry that connects Woolwich with the other side of the river. And we go along there, and there's the ferry terminal there. And as you pan along there, you can see there are the big sexual symbols and other things that I've talked about before of the Docklands. Now, what I've come to see is this. This here is the Woolwich southern entrance of the Woolwich Foot Tunnel. And basically this goes down, there's a shaft that goes down with stairs and lifts, and it comes out over there. That is the other side, and that's where I've got to get to. Now, according to the high strangeness that's been reported here, according to the high strangeness, look, it's low tide, you can see. According to the high strangeness that's been reported here, this is where that time anomaly took place, where people would go in there and they go into here, like the builders, like that Peter and the other builders that I talked to you about, and they would come out just literally a moment later over there. Yet for the people going through the tunnel, it seemed like the normal amount of time, like there's some kind of Einsteinian wormhole type time warp effect. And as one of the guys said, the witness who spoke to the man who wrote the article, or the man or whoever it was who wrote the article, I think it was a bloke, it sounds like it's kind of man speaking, he aged 3 years working in the tunnel, which you would do if you're down there a lot and there's this time anomaly. But anyway, let's just I suppose we better risk it, hadn't we? Although I should point out there's no real danger to me, because no anomalous effects have been reported in this tunnel since 2011. It's 2018, so that's quite long. That's 7 years ago. So I'm not really that worried. But anyway, this is the original. This is the structure that was built. This is 1912 that was built. You can see the Waterfront Leisure Centre behind it has been built round it. It's a much newer building. But anyway, let's go in and see what happens. Anyways, I'm going to go in there, and my shoes come off. Just a moment, my shoes coming off. I've got these shoes. These are what I wore these shoes at Probe. One sec. They didn't come off at Probe. There we go. There's an elegant sort of red bricked. Better go around clockwise, you know. You have these little prayer bells that the Buddhists have. It's an elegant red brick building. Pretty typical of the early 20th century. And there's, what's this? And you have an entrance here. Again, these tiles, these white tiles, are very typical of that time. You can see them on some areas, some of the older stations in the tube. Yeah, we have another entrance here. Look at that, yeah. Oh, that's the lift. There's a lift there. You can get a lift. But I'm going to go down the stairs. I'm an ex-hospital porter. I'm going down the stairs. So, yes, I think I will. You can hear planes taking off, actually, because London City Airport is just over there. But anyway. Okay, I'm going to go in there. I think the first thing we should do is check the time. Hang on. The time, let's see there. 3:58 p.m. Okay, it's 3:58 p.m. If I'm right, when I come out the other side, it should. If there's an anomaly, it'll still say 3:58 p.m. I'm suspecting it won't, but we'll just go down there and have a look. So I'm going to descend the stairs now. It says keep to the left of these stairs. No cycling, busking, animal fouling, littering, loitering, skateboarding, spitting. Dogs are kept on the lead. No cycling. You're very careful about that. There's some things you CCTV in operation. Ooh. And down we go. See these white tiles? You see a lot of these. You see them in some old public toilets and things like that. They're quite common. And then I imagine this goes down quite a long way. And I think that's the lift shaft in the middle. Yeah, you see the lift going up and down there. To be honest, it actually smells like a bloody public toilet. Ugh, look at that. I'm not even going to touch that. I don't know what it is. It smells like a public toilet down here. Let me explain a few things. Down we go further still. I just heard a strange noise. Maybe that's the portal opening, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to come out in another dimension and you'll never see or hear from me again. I don't know, some of you will be pleased. I don't know that. That happened. Good blimey. I suppose it's got to go down a long way. It's just got to go onto the river. There's this chap called Ujwal, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He filmed down here, and he contacted me on Facebook, and he does actually watch. So he watches. So Ujwal, if you're watching, thanks very much for filming down here. Okay, we come to the end. All right. Ooh, here we come to the tunnel entrance. See, they still ride their bloody bikes. It says don't ride your bike, they still ride their bike. Keep left. Ooh, look at that. That looks scary, doesn't it? Ooh. Now this is the bend he talks about. Like you see, it does bend slightly downwards and then upwards, which must be what the witness said he described when he spoke to his, or the author described when he spoke to his witness. And he said that the Peter, the Bulgarian builder, had this big long rope walking through here, and that's where you got that really weird, very, very potentially very dangerous causality paradox. This is, as I say, was it 1,000? How many feet was it? Well, you've already seen it. I've already showed you. But it's 1,000 something feet along here. Yeah. It's not too late to turn back. But it does make me wonder, what would have happened if the guy with the rope had come back? That's the question. What would have happened? It really seems a long way. What would have happened? Because he'd already appeared on the other side, yet the guy could see him here in the tunnel. Would there be two of him? Would he be like doubled? So the autofocus is failing. That's it. Hope that's not a bad sign. We're not quite halfway yet. I mean, would there be two Peters? So in a sense he'd have cloned himself through this anomaly. That would take some getting used to. I mean, just imagine I did that. A copy of myself. Some people say the world's not big enough for just one of me. How would you cope with two? See, no cycling, keep left. Because it is one of these little things, that these paradoxes you often hear about. Do you know what it sounds like to me? It actually sounds to me like, it reminds me very much of the story of Mel's Hole. I think we're probably about halfway now. Yeah. Now Mel's Hole, you might have seen Mel Waters on Coast to Coast. This is what, in the early days, that was in the 90s when Coast to Coast was great, when Art Bell was alive and he was broadcasting every day and it was really wonderful. This guy called Mel Waters phones up and he comes on the show, and Art And he tells this amazing story, but he lives like somewhere in northwestern United States. And he says there's this hole he knows of in someone's back garden. He wouldn't say where it was for obvious reasons. But there's this big black hole that goes down. It's about 12 feet across, and it's got this little wall around it like a well. And it goes down into darkness, and no one can see the bottom. And you throw stones in there, and they never seem to hit the bottom. But weird things happen, like you threw a dead dog down there, and the dog came back to life. Well, it appeared again, things like that. Which indicates there's some kind of interdimensional nature of this particular phenomenon. Like, I feel like Longdon, it's like you think about 1,000 something feet, 1,600 feet or whatever it is, and you think, that doesn't sound too bad. When you're outdoors, you look at it on a map, it looks like nothing. When you're down here in a tunnel, you get echoes and things like that. It seems very weird indeed. Remember the clock, it was 3:58 p.m. when I entered the tunnel. So Mel's Hole was kind of like, well, if you go to coast, you can see it, because he did about 3 interviews with Mel Waters. And Mel's Hole has some other strange properties as well. That you throw all kinds of things down there and they come out different, they come back different. It's almost like there is some like an interdimensional effect there. A lot of people try to find Mel's Hole and they can't. But what was described sounds very much like Mel's Hole. Very much like Mel's Hole indeed. Well, a lot of people coming through here. I passed about 4 or 5 people. No one riding their bike, luckily. That annoyed me. But, see, all this was like fixed over the course of a year and a half because the river was leaking in. You don't want that when you're down here under the river. But, yeah, it's kind of like if you get these interdimensional things that appear, all kinds of weird things can happen. It's like maybe there's something. Why this happened here, I don't know. Why this particular event happened to occur here underneath the river, in the clay and the mud beneath the River Thames in 2010 is beyond me. Unless it may have something to do with CERN, because these sort of things are happening more and more. These things are being reported to me more and more. Like Stargate Brighton happened. That was before CERN was switched on, I think. I think that was actually. When did I do that video, Stargate Brighton? The original one, because I did it originally, and I had to remake it a couple of years later. Don't know if you remember. But anyway, it was a few years ago. I think it was before CERN was switched on. So these things do happen spontaneously. I'm at the end. I can see the end. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and the autofocus is not working. Yeah. There's light at the end of the tunnel. Okay. But yeah. Oh, a few more echoes. But these things have been happening more and more. It's like the Mandela Effect. Now, the Mandela Effect definitely postdates the use of CERN, the Large Hadron Collider at CERN. Laura Broom, she was the first one to investigate it and wrote her article that came out in 2013. And she said this was quite a recent thing. So it's quite likely that the Mandela Effect may well be caused by CERN. And of course the Mandela Effect affects lots of people. I've got the Mandela Effect. I mean, personally, I'm a Looney Tunes guy. But it's absolutely, I remember so clearly, Looney Tunes. It's just Looney Tunes. I remember it like just so clearly. Okay, we're nearly at the end now. Oh. Shame the autofocus doesn't work on this. This is my new camera. I decided to use this. I've got my old camera. I heard a scary clunk behind me. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's the portal closing and I'm now trapped in an alternative parallel universe. I'm going to come out of here and everything will be exactly the same except some people have green faces or something, I don't know. Some people just can't read the sign that says no cycling, can they? Oh. Okay, we're nearly at the end now. Yeah. Nearly there. Great stuff. Right, so we're now on the other side of the river now. Come all that way. I've got to go back there anyway, unless I might go back on the ferry. I don't know. North on the north side now. Right, shall I rough it on the stairs? Who needs the bloody lift? I'm an ex-hospital porter. I'm going up the stairs. Yes, I am. And the stairs this side look exactly like the stairs. These stairs are pretty old. They haven't actually modernised these during the refurbishment. Look old, sort of rusty, kind of late 19th century, early 20th century. But you see the handrail on that side is older than the handrail on this side. That's an old handrail. Got a new one this side. Okay. The moment of truth is approaching, ladies and gentlemen. Soon I will find out whether I still exist in the space-time continuum as you know it. He's left the stairs. Right. I am. He must be near the top. Is that something to do with an underground base? There used to be this program called Otherworld, I remember. It was where these American tourists go to Egypt. And they go in the pyramid. And the pyramid is, look, it's a secret base in there. Oh, here I am. Oh, the pyramid is like this. It's like this portal, it protects a portal to another world. Here I am. Right, the time is, oh my God, I can't believe it. It's 3:58. No, it's not. Only kidding. Look, it is 10 past 4 in the afternoon. Okay, 10 past 4 in the afternoon. So that's about what you'd expect. Let's have a look around this. Everything looks normal as well. Nothing wrong here. This portal, funny enough, they call it a portal. This entrance to the tunnel is. As you know, funny enough, you wouldn't believe it, but the official engineering term and architectural term for a tunnel entrance is, guess what? A portal. I know, I found this out when I've been looking into the awful thing they're planning to do with Stonehenge. They're planning to put a tunnel under Stonehenge, and the official term is portal. Now, here I am. I can't see. Can I see the portal on the other side? So maybe you can. I'll hold you up like that. Maybe you can see the actual entrance on the other side. I can't because there's this big seawall here. But yeah, just going around the outside of the northern entrance here. I think this is Newham, North London. There's the ferry terminal. Might go back on the ferry actually. Make a change. It's a free ferry apparently. And here is the entrance, and that's the bit sealed off where they got the secret base, obviously. That's where they press the button to open and close the portal. Only kidding. Well, obviously, seeing as there's been no time anomaly at all in my transit of this particular tunnel, none at all, no problems at all, which doesn't surprise me because, as it's explained, it seems to be an inactive portal at the moment. So where it is, I don't know where the entrance is, but it seems to be an inactive portal. So, all's well that ends well. I'm still here. If you're watching this, it means I got out alive. And so yeah, it's obviously an inactive portal if it existed at all, if that's a correct story. Of course, someone could have just made it up. Anyway, time for dinner at that nice little restaurant, I think. So Thank you all for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.
Don't go away just yet, because I have a little addendum to this video. I decided in the end to film my crossing on the Woolwich Ferry. For those of you who are interested, it follows now.
I've come on board the ferry. This will make up for me not being able to go on the riverboat. But look, you come down here and you're actually there's the river. There's the pilings. See, we're at low tide. That's where the river goes up. Well, it's very sort of certainly steerage class, isn't it? But it's not a long journey. They put on life jackets. One quick shortish trip, etc. Yeah. It's Pontoon Ferry. Flood barrier, do you see it? Famous Thames flood barrier. I'm going to drop your camera in the drink. Fall in the oggin, don't want that. Well, that smell of river water, isn't it lovely? Yeah. Is the pretentious Dubai-like skyline of modern Illuminati-occupied East London. And deep beneath our feet runs the tunnel, the foot tunnel, which I just walked through, which may or may not be the site of an interdimensional gateway. At least when you're up here on the surface, you know there's no interdimensional gateways anywhere. There, that didn't take long. A few minutes, couple of minutes across the river. We have arrived at our destination.